Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to paint this easy, loose spring watercolor landscape. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Let's get started. So we are first going to start our painting with drawing in our horizon line and then where our shoreline is going to begin. So about 1/4 of the way down from the top of the page, we are just going to draw a really light horizon line. And then just a small section down, we're going to create where our shore is going to begin. And this one is just going to slightly curve. And this is going to be like a mountain or a hill looking over the sea. And that's all we need to do to begin with our drawing. And now I'm going to take my size 12 round brush, and I am just going to fill it up with clean water. And I am going to, whoops, got some pink left on there. And I'm going to cover up this entire area with clean water. So just a nice even gloss. You don't want any water pooling in any of the corners. You just want a nice shine on your page. All right, and so I'm going to begin by putting down a light wash of some pink paint. I will have all the specific paint colors that I'm using listed over on my blog, so just head over there and you can see all the specific paint colors that I used. And I'm just going to start applying this paint all over the sky area up here. And we're going to work in just sections at a time because we can always re-wet down below here if we need to. I'm just leaving this little area clean and white for now. And then I'm going to go into a light wash of my purple paint, and I'm going to begin tapping that in on the top here. I'm going to cover a lot of this pink toward the top. I'm going to add a little bit of black to my purple just to dull it down a bit. And just kind of create some sweeping motions. And as well just on the top there. These are going to be, we're going to have a pink and purple sunset. I'm going to add a little bit of orange to my purple. This is a contrasting color, so this will give it a natural dullness, but still have that purple tone. I'm just going to drop that in on top, not completely covering all of that purple we just put in. Definitely around the corners up at the top where we want the purple to be its darkest. And then right along the bottom of this section right here. And I'm going to dry my brush off, and I'm going to soak up this section right here. So with a dry brush you can pick up your paint. I'm going to go back in with my pink right underneath it and back up through here because I just feel like the purple really ate up all of that pink paint we had put in earlier. I'm going to water this pink down just a little bit. Just pull that across. I'm going to clean my brush off again. Just kind of pick up some more paint. Just kind of move it around a little bit. And then with a dry paper towel, I'm going to just wrap my finger up with it, and then I'm just going to press down in the center, and that is going to be our sun. And then I'm going to take some clean water on my brush, so it's just fairly damp, and I'm just going to blend that color out around the sun so it's not so sharp. Just like that. And then we are going to go back into that purple and just add that right beneath into the water. And then we're going to go into blue and add that to our purple paint mixture. And we're going to finish out this area with some blue paint. And the bottom of my paper has already dried, the top, working with the top. It dried a little too quickly on me, but it's okay. We are going to just work with it. So again, the purple, and then it's going to transition into that blue. And then there's that shoreline right there. All right, so we're just going to continue to let this section dry, and we're going to keep working down below. So I'm just going to reapply some clean water to that area. It's okay if that blue seeps in a little bit, because we're just really going to work with these colors up here. It's going to kind of shadow down, and then it's going to get into a green color. So we're actually going to start with that green paint. And again, I'll have everything listed over on my blog, the specific colors that I used. And we're just going to start dropping in that color for about 1/4 of the way up from the bottom of our taped off section. I'm going to get a little bit darker of a green and drop that in just some random sections to give some definition. But we are going to build on top of these layers, so you don't have to worry too much about how your main colors look. We are going to build on top of all of these colors. So I'm just cleaning my brush off, getting rid of all of that green, and I'm going to go back into that blue and purple, and I'm just going to come in right along that shore line. And then I'm going to go into that pink, and it's just kind of going to shine right there, and then it's going to kind of hide away into the corners. So I'm going to clean my brush off. And with a very lightly damp brush, I'm just going to blend these colors down. And blend them right into each other. Get a little bit more pink on my brush. I'm going to get a little bit more green, and I'm going to lighten it up just a bit, because the farther away something is, the lighter it's going to appear. It's okay if those colors mix, even if it is more of a, kind of gets a little bit of an olive tone to it. And I'm going to take a little bit more of that purple. I'm just going to drop a little bit of it in right up here. And you're probably thinking this is so weird adding all of these colors, but I promise it's going to make sense. We're going to have a beautiful field of flowers, and it will make sense when it is all said and done. Take a little bit more of that deep green. I'm going to add it in right up here. You can tell it's already starting to dry. All right, and we are going to leave this and let it completely dry, and then we will come back and we are going to add more detail on top of our first layers. So now that everything is dry, we are just going to work from the top and add detail and just work our way down to the bottom of our page and just continuously adding in the detail. So we're going to start with our sky, and I'm going to take, so this is going to be dry on dry, where before we did wet on wet. And I'm just going to take some purple on my brush, And we're just going to add some more defined clouds to the top of this painting. So to paint a cloud, I really just like to tap in random splotchy looking shapes, and I think usually it turns out really well when trying to make my clouds with my sunsets, when putting that color on top of each other. It's just really fun to see those layers build, and it's great to leave some empty negative space. That's really going to add to the clouds, letting that previous layer seep through. And try not to make much of a pattern with it. Just try to be as random as possible. I think we're going to leave it like that. Just kind of going up a little bit with that cloud. And then I'm going to add a little bit of black to that purple, as well as just a little bit of blue. And we are going to put in a mountain in the very back of our foreground. So just right where that sun begins, we're just going to pull up the tiniest little mountain range. I'm just going to do that all along the base, just like that. Just kind of straighten out that horizon line. So just a really thin layer of mountains with that bluish purple color. And then we're going to stick with that color, and we're just going to create, with the very tip of our brush, the tiniest little ripples in the water. So I'm just trying to, with a very light hand, create the smallest little lines. This can be a little tedious, just to create the waves. And then I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to clean it off, and it's going to be lightly damp, and I'm just going to go over those lines and kind of just soften them out a bit. You can use a bigger brush too if you want to soften out them, so you don't have to keep going back in for more water. But just gonna soften out those line textures. Just enough where you can still see it and we don't have a completely flat body of water. And now we're going to come to the front of our grass area, and we are going to go in with a really dark mixture of our green, so the darkest consistency you can get, and you can switch to a smaller brush if it'll be easier, and we are just going to make quick grass line motions, and they're going to be really dark in the front And then as we work our way back, they're going to get lighter and smaller. So just practice just with a light amount of pressure. You don't want to press your brush down too hard. And just using that tip, just pulling it up to get that grass. And we are going to do this all the way back. So even when it gets to the pink, we're still going to add in our grass marks. I'm going to speed up this process for you because this is all I'm going to do all the way to the back. And just as I get farther back, the grass blades are just going to get smaller as it reaches that horizon line. All I did for this step was I splattered purple, pink, and yellow paint all over the foreground to give the appearance of loose watercolor flowers. We're just going to take some black paint on our brush and we're just going to paint in a rocky ridge all the way across. So you can go very loosely, just kind of like you're making a line and just letting your hand kind of wobble all the way across. Getting a little bit more paint on my brush. And then to just kind of tie it in a little bit more, I'm going to take some of that purple paint and just right underneath it, I'm just going to kind of pull in a shadow. I'm going to do the same thing with the pink paint, just pull in. And just adding a nice even gloss of water to smooth everything out. And then we are going to let this dry, and then we're going to come back in and do another layer of splatter on top of what we just smoothed out. So real quick before we splatter again, I just re-dried everything, and I'm going to create a nice even coat of water from the bottom coming up And we're just going to smooth out this process again. I thought it was way too, I just feel like it smeared a lot of what we just did. So I want to just fix it, and I want to show you how I would fix this. So I took the purple on my brush, and I am just going to carry that over. I'm going to get some of that black, and I'm just going to fill in that little rocky ridge and just let that kind of bleed into that purple. Just kind of following what I did. I'm going to clean my brush off completely. I'm going to go into my pink. Just bringing that in with that purple. I'm going to get a little bit more pink on my brush. Not too much. Just blend that in like that. Clean my brush off again. Get a little bit more purple. And then with the rest, I'm going to clean my brush off, get a really light wash of green. And from the bottom up, I'm going to blend that into the pink. And I'm just going to let these colors dry together and just kind of blend. And then we're going to go back over everything and splatter again to finish off and to give us back that flower look that we had. So like we did before, we are going to cover up our ocean and our sunset. We're just going to cover that up with a paper towel. And then we're going to take our round brush and we're going to load it up with a thick mixture of purple. And then we are just going to splatter that purple all over our grass area. And we really want to fill it up and get a lot of flowers. And then I'm going to clean my brush off completely. And I'm going to do the same thing with the pink. So a lot of pink on my brush. And then I'm just going to splatter that all over. And then again, cleaning my brush off completely. And then loading it up with a lot of my yellow paint. And then splattering that all over. With the yellow, you might have to work a little bit harder just because it can, obviously it's the lighter color, so it might not show up as much. Just gonna get a little bit more water in my yellow and then splatter it again. There we go. All right, and then you want this to completely dry. And then we should be done. We will see how it looks when we take our tape off once it is dry. All right, so now we are going to take our tape off and see our final product. And there we have a loose watercolor landscape. You can see where my splatter went on my edges, and since this is a notebook, I am not going to be cutting these edges out. But for you, if when you had your tape in place and the splatter got everywhere, all you'd have to do is take some scissors and just cut out what you painted. And then there you have an easy, loose spring watercolor landscape painting.